Hi everyone, I'm Abi. I'm a dairy farmer from South Wales, and I'm going to share with you a few experiences I've had on my farm of trying to improve dairy cow fertility. And probably one of the first things I would start off by saying, and it's certainly the best piece of advice I learned myself, was to try and not become overwhelmed by all sorts of factors that can affect fertility or dairy cow health in general, and just focus on one or two key things, sort them out and move on, rather than let yourself be bogged down with too many challenges at once. So for myself, about 10 years ago, I took over management of this herd, and at the time the calving interval was about 490 days, so it was really high, and I was very keen to get it down. And there were all sorts of things that we looked at, but one of the key things we had at the time was we had a spate of abortions, and this was identified to be Neospora, which is an aborting disease. It's passed down from mother to daughter. And it was a challenge. It was costing us money because we were having either early embryotic loss, or we were having cows abort later in life, which meant later in their lactation, which meant that we were facing increased costs, either by having a cow that was not productive for a certain amount of time or having to cull that cow early. So I spoke to my vet, and she put us onto a checks-based scheme which enabled us not only to test for cows with Neospora, but also to develop a control plan and an eradication plan, because that's the key. We had to get it out of the herd. We had to stop these costs from building. The control plan was really successful. Back 10 years ago, we had Neospora in about 30% of the herd. Now I've got it down to less than 5%. It wasn't without its challenges. It meant that we did have a reduced number of replacements coming through the herd, because any animal identified with the disease was bred to terminal sire. It also meant that we did have to say goodbye to some family lines, which was quite hard. But we're getting on top of it now, and I want it completely out of my herd, and it's given me the confidence to go on and start focusing on other diseases such as Johne's, IBR, BVD, leptospirosis, and to start and try and think of the easy ways to keep it out. So vaccinations, excellent. If you can use a vaccination for a disease, why aren't you? It's so useful. Today our calving interval is down to 363 days, which I'm really proud of. I think it's my top KPI in this herd. And I want it to stay that way. So I've dealt with Neospora, I've still got a few bits left, but I'm moving on now and doing other things. So I would urge anybody to start thinking about the disease aspect in their herd and to have a chat with their vet and see what can be done.